All right, let's get started. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to talk about financing mobile homes, and I'm going to approach all of this a little bit more from the realtor's perspective. We'll say working with someone like me as an investor or just in general, but more from the realtor's perspective. So I know some people watching this might be a real estate investor. That is a whole nother topic of discussion, so you won't see me going through all the numbers. I want to stick with how it's really benefiting realtors and how you can serve your clients. All right, so let's get started. Any questions, put it in the chat or comments here, and I will be happy to answer them. Of course, I gotta do a quick legal disclaimer. Essentially, trust but verify, check with any uh, attorneys, CPAs, or anyone else professional, because everyone's situation is a little bit different. Let's start out. This is going to help preference the different types of ways to finance mobile homes through the stories I'm going to tell. So I quickly want to just go over like my negotiating style. It might make a little bit more sense some of the stories I'm going to tell. So I go in to solve problems. Our goal is we solve problems and we get paid for solving these problems. I love to build rapport. I love to have the conversations. I used to be able to sit down inside of everyone's home and talk for hours or maybe go to breakfast. In today's world, it seems like it's a little bit more on Zoom, which is fine. It does take a little more effort to build rapport on Zoom, but I love to talk, to get to know each other, and then to truly try to solve the challenge that the seller is having. Uh, I give multiple offers and I ask curious questions. I don't have just like, hey, here's my offer. I really like to dig in there, ask a lot of curious questions because that helps me with all the tools I've learned over the years to be able to really give, I will say custom offers, but really offers that I believe from all the questions I've been asking and the answers I've been getting serve that person the best. And multiple offers because if it doesn't work, all right, why doesn't it work? Give a counter offer, go back and forth a little bit. All right, well, here's another offer. Because honestly, I don't always get it right on the first time. So that's why I like to go back and forth a little bit, not so much as in like a negotiating, pulling the price down or this or that. It's more of, okay, why didn't this offer really work? Oh, this piece didn't work. Okay, well, let's get rid of that piece and add something else in. And then I firmly believe what Zig Ziglar says, if you can help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. That's one reason I'm doing a lot of these trainings for realtors, because if I can help you, help you, help you, I believe I am going to end up buying the mobile homes I need. It may not be through you. I just believe if I help enough people, I will get as what I want. And what I want is to be able to help people while buying mobile homes. So that is my negotiating style. You'll see that throughout these stories I'm going to tell. So let's dig into now financing mobile homes. I don't really have a section in here about banks. I will give the quick about banks right now. Go to a community bank, a credit union. Those are the best options when it comes to a bank for financing mobile homes. When you get into the older ones, they don't like them. The very important year is June 15th, 1976. There are no banks that essentially finance mobile homes older than that. Does that mean you can technically finance a 1978 mobile home? Yes. Do I see that happen often? Not really. And here, by the way, let me pause real quick. I don't believe I mentioned. I am talking about mobile homes with the land today, not the mobile homes on lot rent. So, actual real estate transaction, mobile home and land, the homeland package. That is what we're really going to talk about today. If there's enough demand, I can talk about another day, just the unit within the park, but I want to focus on the real estate transaction, home and land together. So if your buyer is going to need financing, that they want to use a bank, I strongly recommend calling a community bank, a credit union. I don't have anyone right now to recommend. You can always reach out. Maybe I do at that time. If it's an investor like me that needs bank financing, still, I'm going to say a community bank, a credit union, but there's even less options for us investors than there are for the homeowner. The banks have another set of criteria on top of what your standard criteria for financing a mobile home. So let's go into the non-bank financing because that is what I see the most because I see a lot of banks failing at closing or people didn't understand all the true requirements for it. So private money is one of the biggest ways I finance mobile homes and I see others financing mobile homes. Who's private money? What is the private money? Private money is friends and family that I actually know, like, and trust me that give me money to buy the mobile homes. It's faster. I'm going to go through some of the reasons here in a second. I'm also going to go dive into some examples of it. So let's talk about why. It's faster. I can close much, much faster. We'll go with my extreme fast case next day. I was able to close next day. The title work was done already. So that's usually actually the biggest speed issue is the title work. I need to get the clear title. There have been a few instances that I did not need to because the price was just that good and I felt comfortable with it. But in general, speed is the title work. And I will tell you, I've gone through every property I've ever purchased. And most of the time, I seem to be helping people that their speed issue is actually slow. They want to know it's sold. They maybe even need a little bit of money, need to stay a little bit longer after closing to be able to get their next property. They just want that peace of mind. So I have found, I know a lot of investors talk about fast, fast, fast. A lot of people I've talked to have actually wanted slow. They wanted the peace of mind, and the fast actually made them nervous and too tense and scared. So I can go either direction with the speed. Private money is I'm helping. It's like I said, it's friends and family. So I know where the money's going. It feels for me a little bit better than writing a check to Bank of America or even the credit union and community bank nearby. Lower cost. My private money lenders do not charge me like as much of, we'll say, the closing fee time. Yes, maybe sometimes they charge me a higher interest rate than a bank can get, but I don't have so many prepaids and all of these fees associated with it. So that way, the cost getting into it is a little bit lower, which sometimes that means I can give the seller a little bit larger of a down payment because really the amount all in that I have to bring of cash matters. So if it's going to a lender, well, that just means I can give the seller a little bit less. And this is one of the biggest ones, ability to finance non-financeable properties. So if a bank's not going to finance it because of the age, it's the condition, the speed, whatever the issue is, private money allows me to still buy it. They don't have rules. They have their own individual rules, but they don't have a blanket rule. So I have to go to different friends of mine. Some of my friends don't require me to have coverage on the mobile home. Now they require me to buy it a little bit lower of a price, but insurance is a big issue right now in Florida. So there's a lot of mobile homes out there that are not financeable, sorry, are not insurable, which really makes them not financeable, especially bank-wise. And it makes it where some private money lenders aren't. But I have some private money lenders that will finance me and the property, and they do not mind that the property is not insurable. So there's all different reasons that a property is not financeable, and I have the ability to buy them because I have the right relationships with the right people that will still finance it. So let's talk about some examples here. And if you, but again, if you have any questions, put it in the chat, the comments there, and I will make sure to answer everything. So Oak Tree, this is a MLS listed property. I bought this using a realtor I've worked with. I love working with any realtors, but so I did have a buyer's agent and there was a seller's agent. So this is in Mulberry Oak Tree. How did we find it? Again, the MLS. I love working with realtors. Another topic is I know that there's sometimes realtors don't love working with investors. Investors don't love working with realtors. I don't find that to be true. I love, and I think we should all work together at times. So we found it through the MLS. The problems that we solved, because I always believe that we're solving problems. That's how I get paid. That's the value I really bring. So it fell out of contract a few times. So I started asking more questions. Well, part of the property is in a flood zone. There was a non-permanent roof. The seller was getting frustrated, really wanted to move to Mexico. And then another thing, uh, I'm going to just go ahead and say it. Shame on the agent. The pictures were not good. They were not great pictures. Now, I am not an agent. But I will tell you, with anything we put online to rent, and I believe all agents should be, I mean, the pictures are one of the easiest things. If you're not great at them, hire someone. The photographers are not that expensive, but the pictures were not that good, which made the property not look very good, which probably is why they didn't get as many showings. So these are the different problems that we were solving here. The financing was private money because my friend that financed it did not care that the roof wasn't permanent, did not care about the flood zone and all these other issues that other people were falling out of contract because of their financing. The rehab, I'm going to go through some pictures. We did have to do some repairs. It wasn't anything like a full rehab on the property, but it did not have the best curb appeal. I'm gonna have some after pictures afterwards. The roof, again, it was not permanent, but you can see they did not repair any of this water damage from the time when uh, when it was leaking. The bathroom, it's basic. There's some electrical outlet, which is not uncommon on a 1980s mobile home. Like you can see, it's kind of popping out there. That is really common. And so we had to replace some electrical stuff to make sure it's a safe property. Dated kitchen, a little cluttery there. You can see a little bit more. The cabinets were worn out a little bit, but the boxes still work. So it was actually a difficult middle ground of like, it still works, but it's kind of ugly. More spots from where the roof had leaked at one point. A gas. Not everyone likes a gas range there. Again, another bathroom. You can't see in the picture, but that sink is really worn out because it was the standard sink from when the property was built. So then some after pictures here. This is kind of more displaying. There was a ramp going up there that was very unsafe. Insurance does not like stuff like that. So we got rid of that. The inside we did a refresh. We did not end up getting rid of the cabinets, but we painted them. So we did we'll say a light refresh. You can see the carpets were replaced with linoleum, and it looks nicer. Here's some more pictures. The other bathroom, it looks really sharp. We didn't have to sink a ton of money into it, but we did have to do all of this math ahead of time to see what it would come out to be, so that we could pay the right amount. And then we put it for rent. So let's talk about some numbers real quick. We ended up purchasing this at $135,000. This was listed at 159,900. The realtor said they would not take anything less than 149,000. That number did not work for me. We close to begged the listing agent to please talk with their seller and give us a counter offer. Again, I'm not licensed. I know that there's some rules that realtors have, and I believe that some realtors are not truly having that conversation, and it's not a good responsibility for representing them. So once she went back and represented and had that conversation, they did come to an agreement at 135,000. This property had been sitting and sitting, and they just stayed firm there. Well, when we had the conversation, they were able to come down because longer they wait, the seller, the longer they're paying their taxes, the insurance, the electric, the water, all these different things. So we did finally come to an agreement at 135,000. It worked for them, it worked for us, because we had that conversation and we kept saying, all right, well, how can we help here? And one way that they helped us be able to come up with the property is they gave us the old inspection reports. And so then I was able to take that and give it to my insurance agent. All right, what are we really looking at here? And so giving us data helped me get more defined numbers of stuff that I have to typically guesstimate on, the insurance. And so, we could look at the taxes because we pay more, we have to pay more in property taxes. Most of these things, but that data and that conversation back and forth is what allowed us to even raise our price that we could pay up to the 135. So let's look at another one. Cragmont here. So Cragmont is another property, and this one, let me show you some pictures and then I'll get into the how we found it. So this is a little overgrown and you can see the tarp. It's actually hard to see. There's actually a second tarp on top of there. So there's a blue tarp, there's a brown tarp, massively overgrown. This is a property that we're judging a book by its cover. The inside was much nicer. So how did we find it? So this came through networking and it came from a realtor, but it was not listed yet. So uh, this realtor, let's call her Rachel. So Rachel got the listing or potential listing as a referral. And she knew by talking and figuring out the challenges here from the seller, there was lots of things going on. It was in probate. It was actually behind on payments, not fully in foreclosure yet. Obviously, the roof leaks. It was not very well kept outside. There were some issues inside, but it wasn't as bad as it looks from here. And they wanted to move. So lots of things going on here. She also knew that they didn't want to be walking lots of people through. She just said, look, we can list it, we can see what happens there. Or if you are wanting just to get rid of it right now, I know an investor, she was talking about me, that buys properties just like this, and we can see what he wants to offer you. And if it works, if not, we list it. So she was kind of giving him the options, and he said, look, I would rather just see what he's going to give and not have everyone traipsing through here. I don't want the public coming through my property. That's actually a pretty common thing that I tend to help people with. So we talked it through. We came to an agreement on a price, and we came to that agreement as they were finishing up the probate so that, the timing would all work. It did take a few months in total because all of their side of the paperwork, but they had that agreement already done and they didn't have to wait until the probate was completely done. So the problem solved, I mentioned them. There was lots of problems here. Financing. This is another property that we purchased with a private money. Now, this was with a friend that I had already done business with before. He said, all right, give me the address. He drove by. He's like, good, we're good to go. So that was like an afternoon. I sent him a text message, and the next morning, he drove by and I had the thumbs up. So there was no contingency on the financing or anything like that. So the seller didn't have to worry about that coming as a problem at the very end. Rehab, I mentioned some of the stuff we had. Rehab, the bathrooms actually had a little bit of damage to them, but nothing huge. And then we put it for rent. So let's quickly look at a few of these numbers. We purchased this at 83,500. Um, at the time, this was double as I had already paid for a property, and now I've paid almost double this actually, maybe 1.5 of this. But it's fine, and wasn't never worried about it because I have a good system. I have all my numbers in check of what I'm looking at, and I wasn't worried about it. So then I had some closing costs. I had some repairs. We put almost $20,000 in repairs in this property. So I borrowed $70,000. Sometimes I borrow the entire amount, sometimes I borrow a little bit less, but I just kind of I like to use this example here because I did not borrow the entire amount on this one because I had some cash to put to work. I'm not an investor that never puts any cash to work. I had no problem putting a little bit of my money because I had it and I believe in my deals. I believe in everything I buy. So I put that to work. This property is not getting the highest, we'll say, return on my investment, but it's because it's giving me a lot of dollars per month, a predictable income. So I rent these out long term. I liked get the idea of getting $585 a month every month, very predictable. So I bought this property, wasn't really worried about the value. So yes, the value did go up since then, but I had so many problems to solve. So I solved all those, and that's why I'm getting rewarded with the amount of money I get every month. And the seller got what he wanted, and he can move on to the next stage of his life. So that's kind of two examples here of times I've used private money to buy properties. So let's talk about owner financing.
So, hey Adrian, how are
Oh,
you?
yep.
This is
Oh,
Victor.
yes. I just saw your question there, Victor. Thank you.
Yeah, can I interrupt you for a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me put my camera here. Thank you for the time.
Yeah.
I like the content. So I'm curious about. So you said that you borrowed those 70,000 from your private money lender, right?
Yes, sir.
Um, After you rehab the property and you find a tenant, so what happened with those 70,000?
So I am a long-term investor. So actually, to answer the question you had in the chat there is I buy and rent. I don't look to sell. Do I sell here and there? Yes, but we like to buy and rent long term. So my financing from my friends and family are longer term. So the shorter term I will do these days is a 5-year balloon. So it's not like a what you hear sometimes of hard money, where as soon as I have it rehabbed, I have to go and refinance it. I personally don't do that.
Got you.
Um, that model could work. I am seeing people getting a little more in trouble with that today because the lenders are changing so quick because rates have been changing. We're not that 10 years ago, we were in a pretty steady, pretty easy
Yeah.
financing world. We're not in that, and people are getting a little more skittish. Banks are getting a little tighter, as I've seen, especially in the mobile home space. So I don't do
Yep.
anything like that. That's why I want at least 5 years. So I have the time to stabilize a property to get a good history. So I'm not, if I do need to refinance it with someone else, I'm not going to someone else saying, here's what I think will happen. I'm saying, here is what has happened over the last 4 years. And then honestly, a lot of the people that finance with finance me, they don't want their money back. They want that income coming back in again and again and again.
Got you. Okay, no, that makes sense. So basically, these friends and family are gonna be lending you the money for at least 5 years.
Yeah, and I have some people that lend it to me for 30 years. They want to
Oh,
know,
really?
that's one thing I love about friends and family is we get to have that discussion on what their goals are and what my goals
Right.
are. And then
Yep.
when they, I just have a whole list and I kind of have what their goals are. And when I have something that's in that world, I say, hey, here's a property that could help you out. And I have one friend that's lent me multiple times, and he keeps telling me 10 years is all he's going to live. I'm like, Dave, you're going to live longer than that. And but he doesn't want to go more than 10 years. And I have other people who are like, I want to leave this income stream to my family in case I
Right.
pass away. So they want even longer. So it's, everyone's just like the sellers, everyone's got different goals.
Got you. Okay, no, that makes sense. Um, it's interesting. And basically, you raise the money, obviously family, because they understand what you do. But with your friends, how do you normally like approach for your projects? I mean, you call them, hey, listen, I have a new project here. Take a look at it, and
Yeah,
let's partner up.
as I've been posting, for years now on social media, people see
Yeah.
what I do, and then sometimes in conversations, they ask me the question, well, how do you finance it? Just like you're doing, and then sometimes
Right.
people are like, well, I want to be one of your friends. I'm like, okay. I make sure that we're truly friends, not someone I message with twice on Facebook, because you can get into some SEC stuff that I never want to find out about how that works.
Right.
But, because they're truly people I know, and we have multiple conversations. We look at their goals, my goals, and then I send them stuff. And sometimes we have to have more conversations about the properties. Because
Yep.
some of my friends that lend money, I mean, they're real estate investors. They know how to analyze stuff. And then some of them, they've bought one property in their life and it's the one they live in. So like they're not very knowledgeable in this world. So I have to make sure that they understand what we're doing here and how, that they're basically the bank and what happens if I get hit by a bus tomorrow. We go through
Right.
those conversations.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
Cool. Appreciate the info. That was my question.
Cool, man. Awesome. Well, thank you for asking.
Hmm.
All right, so let's talk about owner financing. I'm going to say the very first piece here is the number one is yes, you as a realtor will get paid. That is One of the quickest and first questions I always get as soon as the realtor can actually ask it, you will get paid. How you get paid is all different ways. Um, yeah, let me touch on that real quick before we dive into how it's helping the sellers out. So sometimes you get paid because I give a large enough down payment that gets you paid. Some realtors are like, look, I do enough transactions. I don't need all of the commission on this one. Why don't you make me payments and I can make a little bit of passive income? So I've had some realtors say that they like that idea. So they don't do every deal like that way because of course you need money to eat. But they get some payments on their commission and they're making a little bit of interest that's maybe higher than the what a savings account will pay them. So it's just another way of getting tipping into some passive income there. Um, so those are the main two ways that you would get paid, but you will get paid. Um, you will always get paid if you're dealing with me because you deserve to get paid. You do your work and your job, you bring your value, and I want to make sure you get paid. And then if you look at it completely selfishly, I have to sometimes get this through investors' heads when I'm teaching investors is we want you to get paid because if you get paid, who do you call again? Me. So that's why I don't negotiate your terms or anything. Because in reality, the seller's paying it. Your seller's paying you, not me, even though, yes, it can come out of my check sometimes, but they're paying. I have a math equation I have to go through. If I pay you less, all right, well, I can pay them more. If I pay them more, so it's just who gets the actual money. So owner financing. This is when I'm going to make the payments to the owner. And I actually call this payments. I don't like the word financing, especially for someone that is not very vetted in that world. It sounds complicated. It sounds big and hairy and everything. I like to say payments. It's simpler because that's really what I'm doing. I'm making payments for their equity. So let's talk about James Street. This is a property. It's a 1965. Automatically, we know banks aren't going to finance this. So it's a two bedroom, one bath. It was in decent condition. It was, I think, actually, it was very, very under rented at the time. And the one of the biggest scary parts to me is this massive oak tree behind it. I mean, if that thing fell, there is no more mobile home. It's gone. Um, so how do we find it? This one actually came to me through a Facebook. I was doing lots of marketing back at this time, and I was doing some stuff on Facebook, more than just posting. I did some paid advertisements, but sometimes just my Facebook posts generate some leads. Went out there, talked to the seller. He's a very tired landlord. Not a very good landlord either, in my opinion. He wouldn't even give the lady that lived there his phone number. He did not like being a landlord. So, what's the problem we're solving? He does not like being a landlord. And honestly, he's probably barely making money if he was at all because he had it so far under rented between the taxes and the insurance alone. It probably was breaking him even. And then he had the scary part of the lady ever calling him. So financing. We had the conversation, looked at the property. I told him I can pay exactly what you're asking for if you'll take it on payments. So he financed the property to me. So I know there's that myth out there that mobile homes, old mobile homes, are not financeable. That's just because banks won't do it. I mean, by now you've already gotten that because I've talked about it enough, but banks won't finance these old ones. Humans will, and the owners can. So there's no realtor involved in this one, by the way. So the rehab, we did not have a lot of rehab on this one. So it was already rented. But we still had to go ahead and prepare if she decided to move out, which she did move out pretty shortly. She found actually a better situation for her because we told her we're going to have to raise the rent. We're not going to go and raise it $250 a month right away, but we're going to have to make a program to start raising it slowly for her. And she found something that was, like I said, better a situation for her. So the seller said he wanted $15,000. I said, yes, I can do that on payments. So what does that look like? Closing costs. He said he would pay his side of the closing costs. We had some repairs, so the total cost is 18,900. The seller was going to take payments on 15,000 of it. So I know these are smaller numbers, so add a zero to it, maybe for today's world or, a nicer, newer home, mobile home. You can always just double something. The numbers are just examples. So in this scenario, though, you would have gotten paid. You would have gotten paid out of the amount down. But we put the 5,000 down, plus we had the repairs, we had the closing costs. So we have out of our pocket 890 or 8,090, $8,900, which is really making me only $172 a month. It's not a huge amount out of my pocket, but I'm in the long-term rental business. I know that my rents are going to go up. I know I'm eventually going to pay him off, and 172 actual net dollars. That's after taxes, that's after insurance, that's after I know I'm going to have some maintenance and repairs. I'm going to have to save for the new roof. I'm going to have to save for or cut down that tree, which we did end up having to do. And then I have my mortgage. So I have all of these different things, which is how I was making $172 a month. Not everyone always realizes, well, why can't you just pay way more a month? Well, it's because I have to be able to make money. I can't, I'm not a full charity here. So I'm making $172 a month. I'm happy with that. It solved the seller's problems. But let's look at another scenario, timber path. Now, timber path is single wide, as you can see. It's on about a quarter acre, almost a quarter acre of land. Actually, no, it's a little bit more than a quarter acre. Three bedroom, two bath, single wide. Um, Early 1980s. You can already see we've got some issues. This back porch, there is no back steps here. Um, I have some pictures here. I'll show you the inside even more. So how did I find it? I used to put tons of those signs out on the side of the road. If you've been around for a good while, you probably remember the yellow sign, black writing. It says Aaron buys mobile homes. I put out tons of those. We don't do it anymore because, well, I like my Friday nights. And then actually my biggest reason is I was paying people and I couldn't find anyone reliable enough to want the money I was going to pay for them to put it out every single week. So we don't do those anymore. And I'm way more referrals. That's why I'm doing this is I want you to remember me whenever you have a mobile home like this and maybe call me. So that's how we find it. Then the problems we solved. Oof. You're going to see some pictures. But it was in foreclosure, and I mean legit foreclosure, to the point where we actually lent the seller some money before we could close it, and we closed in about 30 days. It was big time. It was a sad situation because she did not owe that much, but she had so many liens stacked on there. I didn't know you can even get a lien from your driver's license. I mean, she had so much problems with that. They started putting liens on this property. So we even lent the money, put a mortgage on the property so that the money was safe, so that she could get all of that taken care of like that week. Um, and then she financed the rest of it. I'm gonna show you the numbers here. The financing was a little different on this one, but she did decide to finance it to us because she gave us the price. I looked at it all and I said, yes, I can pay you that price if I can make payments on it. So I will pretty much always give someone their price if they can give me the payments that work for me. If they can't give me the payments that work for me, well, now I need to get a price that works so then I can go to my friends and family. So you see, it's kind of almost like a teeter-totter there. Rehab. So we had to rehab this property. And I'll be full disclosure, I do not love doing big rehabs. That's why I don't fix and flip. And this was one of the bigger rehabs. I've done bigger than this, but I just don't absolutely love big rehabs. So here's some before pictures. It had a nice little, not a two-car garage, but a shed there. Here's the property. Here's the inside. Like I said, I mean, there was carpet all over this, but they just kind of pulled up the carpet and put a piece of plywood on top to cover the holes. Holes all over underneath beds. I mean, look at there's multiple different types of flooring in here. Underneath the bathtub is all destroyed. Post holes all from the bed frames there, so they keep moving the bed. The kitchen, I mean, the roof was not currently leaking. That is a big deal. Not currently leaking, but it seems like no one fixes the actual damage from it. Some bathroom pictures. the living room. What you can't see in here are the amount of fleas. I mean, this property might be the king of fleas that I've ever gotten. Uh, just so many. And the funny thing is, it didn't have fleas when they were there. And then once they got rid of everything, I was covered in fleas. And I found out it's because the fleas stay on like the couches and cloth and stuff. And then once they're there, they have nothing to jump on. So now all of a sudden you come in. So then here's some after pictures. Cleaned up the property. Looks pretty good. You can see we had to put some steps in there to make it safe so that people could actually walk out there. You know, it's amazing what some cleaning up and paint and some patchwork will do. Here's the inside of there. So then we put it for rent. So let's look at some numbers. I keep looking at these numbers. I want you to help you understand what's going on from my side. Like, why am I making this offer? Why does it make sense? Why doesn't it make sense? And I'm always glad to go in more detail that another time if you want. So we purchased this property for 30,550. I don't remember exactly why it was that number, but that is a number that she came up with. Our closing cost, $750. The repairs, we put about $10,000 into it. So we have a total cost of 41,800. So we have the $15,000 is going to be on owner payments. So that was the remaining of, remember we gave her that 10,000 before even closing, and then we gave her a little bit more at closing, and then we had the payments on 15,000. So the cash out of my pocket was $26,800, which is making me a negative $650 a month, which is a negative 29% return on my money. This is a bad deal when you look at it on the surface. Um, th- why would I have a negative cash flow? Now, there's a few reasons. One of them, I had enough properties at this point to absorb a negative cash flow. I would do not recommend this to people that are buying their first, second, third property. That's a bad idea. Um, and we purchased it at a little over $30,000. The estimated value was 70. So I was getting some equity here. Honestly, I'm not the biggest equity player here. I like cash flow more than equity, but I was getting some equity. I want to show you some more reasons. I'm going to show you my little Excel here that I use. You can see all the numbers, but the big reason is my payments were huge, but they were only for 12 months. So I was going to be losing money for 12 months and the interest was zero. So she was giving me an interest-free loan. So I looked at it. I'm getting some equity. I'm helping her out and I'm going to be negative for 1 year. And I made the business decision. I can absorb this for 1 year to be able to get all of these other benefits. I can't always do that, but this is a scenario. It did work. So that's two different versions of owner financing. I've done lots of owner financing. I most of the time though, I want to repeat it is I'm willing to give the seller what they want if they can help me out getting the payments I want. Or in this scenario, something else that I need. She gave me the 0%. She gave me lots of equity. And it was a deal that worked for me at that time. And I was able to absorb it. I can't always do that, but I was able to absorb it there. And again, this one, if you're in the deals as a realtor, you would get paid in there. I want to just make sure that is cleared again. Okay, so now let's look at one more way that we can be helpful. Now, we're talking about financing here, but not everything can even get cleared on title. So a long-term leasing is another way to help the seller out. And again, I will make sure you get paid somehow. We'll have to have that conversation, but I'm never setting it up that you don't get paid. So Central, this property came to me because I was making MLS offers, and this was years ago. I was making them directly with the listing agent, and I was aware that most listing agents were not presenting my offers, were never even replying to me. So then I was taking my offer, my written offer, and I was leaving it on every doorstep. So every week or two, I would drive around to every property and leave my offer at the door. And this lady called me up probably about 3 or 4 months later. It's in 1982. It's a two-bedroom, one bath. It's on about a quarter of an acre of land. So it was originally listed and it failed at closing, like a few days before closing, which to me is shame on everyone in doing the due diligence. The title work was extremely messed up. Very, very, I mean, we're talking about multiple probates, not even a possibility of quiet title, like maybe costing more than the property's worth to clean up the title and opening up tons of cans of worms. So when she called me, she said, I don't know if you can help me, but I'm desperate here. So as you can see, all the screw ups there in the title world is what the problems were. The home wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. So financing wasn't actual financing. We talked for a few hours. Then we went to breakfast at Crackle Barrel, and we came to the agreement that I would lease it from her for 40 years. That was she was fine with that, and I finally we wanted something very long term. They don't always have to be that long term, but they do need to be long term enough that I can make sure I'm getting the money I need out of doing the work I am. And my deposit, we'll say to move in, was I was going to get the property rent ready. Now that did mean I had to replumb it, and replumbing them was not terribly hard. You can see the RV there. I'm going to go through some pictures. So I had to basically get it rent ready, and then we were setting it up where I could then sublet it out. And there was enough money there that I could make some money and she would make some money. So she would make some money on top of her taxes and insurance and, keeping this property that has the problems. And she did not, she was over an hour away. She did not want to go through and be a landlord at all, especially over an hour away. So you can see we had to get rid of this RV that was there. It had some plumbing to the septic. That's not good. We had some steps. This is dangerous. We had to get it rent ready. These are all some before pictures here. There's a before and after. Um, there's some steps in the back there. So then we put it for rent. We had no problem getting it rented. We're still renting it from her now. We are still subletting it out right now, and she's very happy. She has said, "Hey, I would love you to buy this property." So I don't know. We've been 5 years or so into this relationship. Again, she's making good money, we're making good money, but she would like to just be done with it, more that she just wants all of her affairs taken care of. And so we are working on that now with honestly multiple attorneys to try to find the best path for this so that she does not open up cans of worms and then she's protected. We're able to make money. She's able to make money. So we're going through all of that right now. But in the meantime, she's getting paid every month. She's getting paid the rent every month. That's making a little bit more than her taxes and her insurance, and she doesn't have to do any work. She has a professional landlord or tenant, and we're her tenants, renting it from her. So it's not for every scenario, but it is a scenario out there. We have so many tools. That's why I keep getting educated so that I can learn stuff like this and then ask those curious questions I mentioned earlier. That's my negotiating styles. Ask questions and then like, all right, do I have a tool that can help solve that problem? And that's what I'm here to do. Is help solve problems. If I solve enough problems, eventually I get paid for some of them. So that is what I have on this topic of um, financing mobile homes. I am going to be doing one on insurance next month, and I know a decent amount about insurance for mobile homes, but not everything because it changes so much. So I am actually bringing in my insurance agent. He's out of Lakeland, so he's going to talk about insurance in general, but mainly keep it over on the mobile home side so that you can understand it a little bit better and really ask him questions because you can ask me questions and I can only give you scenarios out of my situation. But so I want to bring value there. And, I'm not afraid to buy properties that cannot get insurance. I just can't pay the same price. So that's what I've got today. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. If you have any questions later, shoot me a message. Put it in I'm going to put this on YouTube for everyone to review. So just put it in the comments there and I'll come back and answer any of those questions. Yeah, I'm happy to help.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Victor. Thank you.
Yes. No, thank you so much for the value that you're putting here. Definitely, I'm looking forward to see if we can, work together in the near future. Right now, I'm doing a lot of marketing in different counties, not specifically in Hillsborough. I know that you are focusing right now in Plant City, Lakeland, that area. So right now I'm putting a lot of marketing into Central Florida, I mean in Orlando, Kissimmee, Marion County, and I'm getting a lot of deals that are mobile homes. So I'm just trying probably to see a different pocket to see if I can start marketing a different area and probably, get out a few deals. Normally my deals are gonna be off market. um, so I don't know if you like to work with wholesalers. I do, wholesale as well, a few fix and flips. So, just wanted to understand more your buying criteria. It seems like
Yeah.
you're getting, pretty good deals with the realtors, but if I can get, a better understanding of your buy box, it's gonna be better. That way, as soon as I get something that fits your buy box, I can, reach out to you and we can see if we can make a deal.
Yeah, thank you. So my buy box is more of a buy diamond. So it's actually
Uh,
30 minutes from Plant City. And I say a diamond because I am a picky buyer, but I do buy. Uh,
okay,
and it's also a diamond because if you actually look at 30 minutes from Plant City, it kind of creates a diamond and instead of a box. Um, that has shifted a tiny bit. It's a little bit more 30 minutes from Mulberry because my stay-at-home mom, office manager, she's in Mulberry and she's doing more of the active driving around and stuff these days. So
got you.
I like to keep it. Do we buy outside of that here and there? Yes. Um, and then by that, after that, it's really on the numbers. I do not care what age it is. I do not care how much land it is. 0.09 acres or 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 acres. Yes, I like
Okay,
more land. Yes, I like a newer home. Yes, I like less rehab, but I don't care about the condition either. In reality, every time it's something I like less, so an older property has more risk, so we can pay a little less. More repairs, we can pay a little less. Um, Less land, um, usually that comes with a little bit less. More land, definitely I can pay you a little bit more, but that usually stops at some point. There's no exact spot. But if you think about it from my income standpoint, I usually don't make more money with 5 acres versus 2 acres. I can't make that much more rent on those extra acres.
right.
I can make a little bit, but that is usually not as much as somebody wants as a difference of 3 more acres. But I'm always happy to help and give those offers. So outside of that 30-minute window, the Zephyr Hills to Brandon, Tampa area, basically like I-75 down to Lithia over to the Lakeland, kind of a little piece of Winter Haven, Auburndale area, almost where the Polk Parkway. I have stuff on the other side of it, but that's kind of a general line there. So when it gets really outside of there, because I do educate investors on how to invest in mobile homes as well. So I have some students, that sometimes I don't bring them stuff that's listed, but if it is a true wholesale or off market that is under contract, um, I can sometimes connect people with some of my students in different
Got you.
markets. I'm just looking to help different people out. I mean, again, if I can help enough people get what they want, I will get what I want, is what I believe. So I don't have students all over every little inch of the state, but I do have a lot in Florida. I mean, I've got them all over the country, but so I'm usually able to help. Um, I've got some student friends that buy in pockets of Lakeland that I don't like because honestly, I do not like Skyview Drive. If you really know Lakeland, you know Skyview. It's not for me. Have I bought there before? Yes. Do I buy there now? Now, no. I got friends that manage in that area better. So it's a lower end area. The police are there
Yeah.
more than anyone else. So it's just not my type of area anymore. Uh,
Okay.
so does that answer the question?
Yeah,
Oh, and
absolutely.
do I work with wholesalers? I'm not sure if I answered that. Yes, I work with anyone and everyone. As long as you're doing morally and ethical business, I want to work with you and I want you to get paid because from the pure selfish side, if you get paid by me, you're going to call me again and
Right.
then we're going to make more money together. So I like when other people make money. Again, it has to be done morally, ethically, legally. There's a few wholesalers out there not doing it the best way, but in general, I think a lot of people that are in long-term business are doing it completely legal.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. And also, how do you normally price your properties? Meaning, do you, I mean, if I want to present you a deal, right? Are you looking for a specific cash on cash? Um, I mean, just to give you like, a reasonable number that is going to work for you, what do you think is going to be the best way to probably price the properties for you?
You, you know, I showed you that little spreadsheet, the screenshot of that spreadsheet that's in my courses that I use still today.
Yeah.
I can't just like say, oh yeah, this is what I give because as you saw, I decided to take negative cash flow on one,
Yeah.
and then I had positive cash flow, and then maybe it was about a year and a half ago, I paid 3 times what the property was worth. So I don't have a formula I could just give anyone because I really try, like that's where my specialty and probably my most value is. I'm like, all right, how can we solve this problem and everyone makes some money and everyone's happy? When I paid 3 times what it was worth, she was very stuck on a price. And she gave me, I think it was 6 months of no payments and a very low no interest payment. And I was willing to do that because I could still cash flow it even though I was going to be upside down in the actual value. Um, So I don't have anything exact. I will say, I get paid for headaches. So the larger the headache, the more I want to get paid. What is a headache? A not so good area versus a great area. Smaller pieces of land, older mobile homes. I mean, I am not scared of a 1960s mobile home, but it is more of a headache than a 2004 mobile home. They're just different
Gotcha.
structures. An area that is going to get me lots and lots and lots of phone calls. Um, a big rehab from the beginning. That's a headache. All of these different headaches, I want to get paid more and more and more on. Um, so I don't have an exact answer for you. So I do frustrate wholesalers sometimes. And if you have stuff that looks, pretty good, and you're gonna send me the details and pictures. Oh, another headache is insurance for sure. We talked
Insurance.
about that a little bit. We're going to talk about it a little bit more next month. If I can't, the general at this second, which it could change by the next month because it does seem to be changing a lot on
Yeah.
insurance. If I cannot get a 4-point inspection, I can't get wind, name the windstorm, the hurricane coverage and everything. So can I still buy it? Yes. Do I have to pay a lot less? Yes. And that changed about 2 years ago. We had the change of that. So that is a piece. If it can't pass the 4-point inspection and I can't get regular insurance on it, I'm gonna pay a lot less. That's a big price difference right there.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, you said that you're trying to stay away from big rehabs because obviously your end goal is going to be putting a tenant in there. So I'm assuming that you are not taking any type of mobile home tear downs or stuff like that.
I'm not taking any what down.
Tear downs,
Um,
like
no, I bought one about a year ago. It was a burnout. I mean, it was not a fixable. It was pure burn, 70% of the home. Um, I bought it essentially for the land.
right.
So it's not something I talk about a ton, but yes, I will buy the land for the mobile home. It's got to be zoned for the mobile home. Most of the times I bought that, it was either the mobile home was burned out, the mobile home was demolished, it was already cleared out 2 or 3 years ago. So, whatever the reasoning was, but I bought it at a really good price, and then I resold it to someone that was putting a brand new mobile home on it. The seller didn't want to deal with that. So I sat on it sometimes for months, sometimes, for a long time, but the price reflected. So, and I'm have to either take that risk of no liability insurance because sometimes they can't give it anymore, or I get liability insurance. But that is a big piece of the value as well because I always remind the sellers, if you have a tear down one, you got to remind them they're liable. If some kids sneak on that property and go get hurt, that's a liability. And I don't sleep well with liability issues. I'll take
Yeah.
risk other places.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so Rosa said, when is a burnout the insurance covered? You know, it depends on the insurance they have, Rosa. S- Bring that question next month to Greg. He will probably be able to help better with that. But you know, I found a lot of these older mobile homes, the owners don't have insurance, unfortunately. It's a risk. You know, the fire is one of the bigger risks, especially in the older ones when the electric has not been updated because yes, they've been around this long and they've made it, but we know today that that electrical system with aluminum wiring is not safe.
Good.
So,
Thanks for that. So
yeah.
you don't put new mobile homes yourself in lots.
Personally, no. I've got some friends that do and students that do. It's just I'm really good at my lane. So, you know, like I said I'll buy the land, essentially the mobile home land, and resell it, leave some meat on the bones for someone else to make some more money on it somewhere else. You know, if it's an
Yep.
investor, if it's an owner occupant, and I'm good at what I do, so I kind of stick with what I do until it doesn't work anymore.
Right. Okay, cool. No, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate the time and the information. Definitely we're gonna keep in touch.
yeah, man. Let's do some business together. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to send out this recording, and again, if you have any questions that come up later, because a lot of times, you know, a day or so later, like, oh, I wish I would have asked. Just shoot me an email, put it in the comments. That's actually, always think of the best way because someone else probably has the same question. And I'm going to be continuing doing these. Give me feedback on your email, the emails I send out. You know, my goal is to add value. And so if stuff you like, you don't like, you don't understand, let me know so I can start adapting them that way. And I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.